Classic Restos, proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts, Main Lube Lubricants, and your local Repco store. Hello and welcome to another interesting episode of Classic Restos. Of course, not possible without the continued support from the wonderful people at Shannons Insurance, Main Lube Lubricants and your local Repco store, scattered across Australia and New Zealand. If you have incredible vehicles like this, you need Shannons Insurance. Why not pick up the phone and give them a call on 134646 for a quote and to see how they can help you. You can also visit Shannons online at shannons.com.au. And while you're there, why not sign up and become a member of the Shannons Club? Main Lube Lubricants, they're a great company too, because you can send an oil sample away from either your engine, transmission, gearbox or diff for a full analysis report to see how your current oil is protecting your investment. When you get a sec, check them out, mainlube.com.au, where they've got in-house technology to back it all up. And of course, your local Repco store is an important major sponsor for Classic Restos as well. Beauty of Repco, walk through the door, be greeted by experience. Now, whether you're in the trade or a retail customer such as myself, you'll have access to an inventory of over $50 million worth of more parts for more cars. Visit your local Repco store around Australia and New Zealand, repco.com.au and repco.co.nz. Okay, with me now, I've got the organiser of this fantastic little day, Sue Miller. How are you, Sue?
I'm very well, Fletch, thanks.
You're tired?
No, that's sun. The southern Highlands sun's just a bit strong.
Absolutely. Now, look, you've done a great job. I love doing this. You know, what's amazing about Classic Restos is that one week you can be over the other side of the world filming in the United States. A week later, you're back in Australia in a regional area at a public school, at a primary school, doing a little car show. I love that. I think it's such a transition.
It's really good. We're very fortunate at Mittagong Public School to have such great grounds and such huge open areas, and we've really turned on the weather today.
Yeah. You have. I mean, you know, it's just a bonus. I mean, it's blue sky. I mean, what better day, what better, you know, weather conditions to come out to a car show, and obviously to raising money for the school, Sue.
Yes, yep, this is one of our main fundraisers for the year, Fletch, and we only started doing it last year, and so we've critiqued quite a lot of things for this year, and so I think we're seeing more cars this year. We've also got quite a few raffles, and people are very happy to spend their money in that department. Absolutely.
I mean, it's all about support. I mean, right down to the nitty-gritty of something to eat, some nice coffee, got the barbecues on. Thanks, Sue. Keep up the great work. You've done exceptionally well. Good on you.
Thanks, Fletch, and good luck.
Here we go, making our way through the Mittagong Primary School Country Fair. We have Anthony. How are you, Anthony?
Not too bad, mate.
That's the way, mate. 1949 MG. What a classic.
Oh, it is. I think so. My wife mightn't think so, but I do.
It gives you a bit of free time away in the garage, right?
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
Look, it's a stunning car. I mean, I think what gets me with this is I like its cool shape across its fenders. It's got a nice colour. The tan interior. It's been done very, very nicely. Now, how much have you done, Anthony?
I've done everything bar the actual painting of the car.
Yeah.
I did all the upholstery myself after buying a kit from America.
Yep.
And I got a lot of stuff re-chromed in Sydney,
yep.
And I reassembled the car myself.
So hang on a sec, you got a British car kit from the US?
Yeah. There's a company called Moss, and they actually do a lot of reproduction stuff for these sorts of cars.
Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful that we're in the era now where we can rebuild our cars and we can get the parts, we can get them, and that's a great thing. I mean, 15 years ago we might have been battling, but now it's like a Mustang is a classic example. I mean, you can buy the floor pan sections and the sills and work upwards.
Yeah, it's virtually the same for this car. You probably buy 95% of the stuff on this car brand new now.
Great.
Yeah,
that's great.
Reproduction.
So what's it like as a car, Anthony?
As a car, might look good. It doesn't drive that well, it doesn't go very fast, it doesn't stop, it doesn't steer, it probably just looks good more than anything.
Yeah. But I mean, when we cast our minds back to 1949 as well, I mean, in 1949, to have a sports car such as this, you would have been pretty well in the chain of employment, you would have been at the top end. You know, I mean, there's a lot going for this style of a car.
Well, I believe this car was more a pilot's car, because this is around just after the war, and whereas pilots probably had money, and if you look at the cockpit on the car, it's probably very similar to an aeroplane, so the pilots actually took a liking to this car.
A lot of guys at NASA back in the 60s too drove Corvette Stingrays, so it's an interesting scenario, isn't it?
This actual car was owned by a pilot back in Queensland about 20 years ago. That's as far back as I know.
Wow.
Yeah, it's always garaged. I've also got another car, and they're both insured by Shannons.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you can't go wrong there. Best in the business.
Yep.
Major sponsor of Classic Restos, of course, too. Go to classicrestos.com.au for more information on that one. Anthony, thanks for catching up, mate. It's great to see you, a guy such as yourself, turn up in the southern Highlands of New South Wales. I mean, I call this place home. It's a beautiful place to live. You brought your MG out for the day, mate. Good on you.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Okay, moving through. Time for Basil now. Hello, Basil.
Fletch, how are you?
Great, mate. Self?
Good on a day like this. It's
You got to be good.
I reckon.
I don't like the alternatives.
No, they don't entertain my thoughts.
Absolutely. You're having too much fun to go anywhere just yet, Basil, because have a go at this. 1965 Sunbeam. What a classy car.
It is a classy, and it's the best of the lot of them.
That's an unbiased opinion, of course.
Yeah, it's done 7 Targa Tasmanias.
Really,
And it's come first in its class and first in classic class. And against Mr. Brock in the Holden Tirana, and the closest he got to it in that race was 10th. So it goes very well with the...
Yeah, well, you've got something serious under the hood, Basil.
Yes.
It doesn't look very British to me.
It's the only British car that don't have an oil leak. It's got a...
See, he said that, I didn't. Mr. Basil said that, Fletch didn't. Oh, that's incredible. Now, on the performance side of things, I mean, it must really get up and boogie.
Yeah, it does. Very light body on it, and Windsor top-loader gearbox, limited slip diff, all the good things on it.
I mean, look, all things aside, I mean, the Windsor V8 and a top loader, I mean, what a combination. I mean, you got an engine that oils very well, good on the rev, you've got virtually an unbreakable gearbox. It's a great combination set up for what this car is meant for. Engine aside, though, too, we look at the lines of the car, the style, the roll cage. Mate, you must feel as though you're 19 years of age driving this.
It does, especially on a day like this with the hood down. It's great. Yeah.
How long have you had it for, Basil?
I've had it 10 years. Yeah, I bought it in Tasmania. Just after I finished the Targa over there, they'd done it up, and it was in the National Museum at Launceston. I drooled over it, and it come up back, and my wife says, for gosh sake, go and get it.
Wow. How cool is that? Good on you, Basil. You worked hard all your life. You've paid your dues. It's time for Basil now.
It is, and we enjoy it. You know, we've done 40-odd thousand since we've had it. It's good.
This is what I love to see. I love to see, you know, people getting to the stage of their lives where they can get the cars of their dreams. It just means so much. And good on you, Basil.
Yeah, makes life good.
Was this the same model that Maxwell Smart had?
It's the same colour. I've even got his shoe phone in the car there.
So, hello, Chief, this is Max.
That's right. When I bought it off the fellow, he said, do you want a female shoe or male? And my wife said, oh, that's a bit tacky. Yeah, it is. But this is a red male shoe, so it's
absolutely good. I mean, you know, if you're going to have a shoe phone, it can't be tacky. I mean, you wouldn't put a big heel in there, would you, Basil?
No, I wouldn't. No. Yeah, good, Fletch. Thanks.
Thanks, mate. Shannons Insurance, they're the people that you need. Pick up the phone and give them a call, 134646. You can also visit Shannons online at shannons.com.au. While you're there, have a look around. You can also sign up and become a member of the Shannons Club. Main Lube Lubricants, send an oil sample away. Receive an analysis from their computerised laboratory. They've got in-house technologies to back it up as well. And of course, then there's your local Repco store around Australia and New Zealand. Welcome back. Now, easily the oldest car here on the field today. Alan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Fletch.
Mate, what is it?
It's a 1906 Dirac. 2-cylinder, about 1600cc in capacity, 10-12 they call it, 10 or 12 horsepower, not sure. Top speed, if I really pushed it, 60 to 70 k's.
Wow.
Normal speed, about 45.
So you don't use a stopwatch on a car like this, you use a calendar.
You'd have to. There's no speedo on it.
It's amazing. I mean, 1906, I mean, we really still, we're in the era of horse-drawn vehicles, aren't we?
Yeah, really. But really not, because the bloke who designed this car was a brilliant engineer. If you look, it's got column gear change. It's got a handbrake and a foot brake. There's 3 pedals on the floor, 1 clutch, 1 brake, 1 accelerator. It's got cruise control, which is a hand throttle.
Amazing technology for the day. But what can you tell us about the history? Like, where did the car originate from?
Well, Mr. Dirac was a Frenchman, brilliant engineer, started off with push bikes, and then in about 1890, I think he bought a car, looked at it, said, I can build a better car, which he did. He never drove a car, he hated being in a car, and yet he produced cars up to about 1925.
See,
Well, the company did.
a little bit of knowledge can be dangerous, can't it?
Very, very much so. Now, I have a brochure on this car, and it tells me that you have a choice of engines. I've got the larger engine, which is good. And
Yeah, you wouldn't want the underpowered one.
oh no, you wouldn't go anywhere. And there was a choice of leather covers. Right. Now, this one's in black. I believe it was black, a blue, a green, a red, and a yellow. Right. You can imagine a yellow leather.
Like a big bumblebee.
It really would.
It's just amazing. But I mean, I don't want to make out as though it's a stupid question, but how does the car drive?
Not too bad. Slow, of course. Yeah, and it's a full crash gearbox. A lot of people know they usually have synchro. This doesn't have synchro. You'd say you've got to pick your gears, and often you'll hear it go rattle, rattle, rattle as you're changing gear because you just can't get the engine revs right for the gears. And it's direct steering. Very
You want to thank yourself lucky you got a gearbox.
Well, yes.
Alan, thanks for catching up. This is a remarkable car. I mean, on Classic Restos we see a cross-section of a lot of different vehicles, but 1906, I mean, goodness me, this is like going into a nursing home and going up to someone and having it, you know...
Don't say that too much.
No, but... No, you got a bit to go. But, I mean, it's like walking in and speaking to someone that's over 100 years old. It's incredible.
No, there isn't, is there? This car's older than anybody here. Yeah, it is. Well and truly.
Yeah, it's going to outlive the lot of us. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you, Fletch. Fletch, to start this vehicle, this is the procedure I have to go through. First, I switch it back on. It's just a kill switch with a magneto. I check that the gear is in neutral, check the handbrakes on. I also set the throttle a bit harder, which is directly tied to the foot throttle. This car doesn't have a choke, and I have to flood the carburettor to start it, and I need a bit of throttle just to keep it going. What I've got to do now is flood the carburettor, as I don't have a choke, and with this carburettor, instead of pushing the button down, I have to pull it up. And I pull it up until fuel flows out of the side of the carburettor. It's now flooded.
Moving through the show, got Peter Garrett's brother now. How are you, mate?
Oh, well indeed, well indeed.
Tony, good to see you, mate. Good to see you. A local to the Southern Highlands of New South Wales.
Yes, a beautiful sunny day here in the Highlands as always.
It is. Mate, you've got this stock standard Eh Holden behind us. Gorgeous old car. What's the deal? What's the story on it?
Yeah, well, it's a family heirloom. My aunt and uncle had it since '67, so basically new, mate. And yep, she passed away not long ago, and it turned up with me here. And as you know, a friend of mine, we have Highlands Racing Classic, looking after old things, and so we just took our trailer up to Sydney and Beacon Hill and put it on the trailer, pumped up one tyre, threw some gas down the carby, and stuck a battery, and away she went.
And how many times have we heard this about old cars? These guys that find these cars they haven't started for years, new battery, bit of juice down the Strongberg, Kick her in the guts and she's away.
That was it. The clutch started down the hill to free the clutch up, so it's bang, bang, bang. And here's the other part of the equation. Looks after the good side of it. See, about 25 years ago, when we were both young blokes, we restored this for Auntie Beryl and Uncle Vince. Did the paintwork and everything, but as you can see, the roof's taken a bit of a beating at the in the beachside suburb of DY and Beacon Hill where she was living. I've tried to leave it original, absolutely 100%. I've gone over it mechanically, all new hydraulics, tyres, all the bits and pieces, done the carby and all the normal EH wear-out things like the gearbox linkages and what have you.
And made under the hood, standard 179?
493 on the tree, and to my understanding, all manual EHs were 4.9s, and autos were 7.9s, so we'll probably start a whole new set of pub debates on that one, with a few new things coming out. But yeah, 4.9, on the tree. First time I sat in it, put my arm up on the seat where I was reversing, thought I was in a time warp.
Back in the days when you would drive along, you'd look through a steering wheel, not over the top of one.
That's right, and you had to pick which spoke you were going to look through as you're driving straight down the highway.
That's it. Great old cars. Good catch up, Tony. Thanks, buddy.
You too, Fletch. Cheers, mate.
Here we go, 1964 Eh Holden, 149, 3 on the tree. I'd just like to show you how pleasant a vehicle like this is to drive. This is amazing. This car has not been rebuilt. First gear, second, gearbox beautiful, linkage is superb. It's as tight as a drum. There's no squeaks or rattles, except one squeak in the back. But anyway, what a beautiful old car to drive. I just can't believe it. It's just marvellous. I've got a lot of time for the old Holden. The EH, one of my favourites. And when you go for a drive like this, that's why. I alluded to earlier in the show, it's the era where you look through the steering wheel and not over, but it's quite surprising how pleasant a car like this is to drive. This particular car has got no wander whatsoever. It's as straight as a die on the road. Doesn't want to go left or right. Doesn't want to go straight either. That's just a great thing. That little 149 red engine, you can hardly even hear that. It's just like a Rolex, the way it just ticks along. What a beautiful old car. The DVD boxed sets of classic Restos, along with other classic Restos merchandise, can be found at classicrestos.com.au. Of course, the major sponsors as well. Okay, we've got to do a Mustang. It's actually the only Mustang here today. Welcome to the show, Bob.
I'm glad it's the only one here. Thanks very much, Fletch.
It's sensational. Now, 12th month 1964, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Now, K-code car. Just run us through some of the options here, Bob.
Well, K-code was put out by one factory for Shelby, who made these Shelby Mustangs, which they had bigger diff, gearbox, steering box, front end disc brakes, and 289 hypo motor. Yeah. And that was the difference.
Mate, it's a sensational example. And look at you. I mean, you've got this car, the big Hurst shifter coming up through the tunnel. I mean, it looks awesome.
Oh, it's a fabulous thing to drive. Yeah. It really is, yes.
Mate, what age were, like, you know, back in the 60s when you knew these American cars were about? I mean, you must have looked at these back in magazines and just wondered, wow, what would owning one of these be like?
Always been a Ford person, plus an MG person, of course, but no, never ever dreamt I would own one. Yeah. But I looked after a chap from the North City's race car for him, and he's got 3 Shelbys, and he said everybody's got to have a Mustang in their life, so I bought one.
So I haven't had one yet. I'm missing out.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Interesting transition too. You also own an MG, so you've got British car. You're a British car enthusiast and an American car enthusiast. The difference between the cars. What do you love about the MG?
I don't know. Probably because that was my era. MGs. I used to run the TC. I was in the Flair arm. I used to drive from Nowra to Belmont every weekend in a TC. So MGs have always been my priorities. And people often say to me, why do you have 3 MGs? Because I can't afford one Austin Healey. That was my answer to that. But no, lovely MGs. Easy to work on and a great motor car to drive.
That's great. That's great. Well, look, how long has this car been in your life?
Yeah, I've had it for 3 years now. You know, it's a pity it's got to move on, that, unfortunately. You know, we've got too many motor cars, so something's got to go, and it's the least one we use.
That's gorgeous. Now, the Mustang 2+2, Bob, now just explain what the 2+2 means.
2+2 is 2 seats, single seat. The back seat will convert into a lay-down seat, or you can access the rear seat from the boot as well. You've got a door which opens up, and so you can put long objects into them.
A lot of the performance cars back in the 60s were fairly plain Jane. I mean, this is a high-option car. The attention to detail, too, with the chrome highlighting around the dashboards. I mean, the stainless steel piano hinge there in back. It's just, the carpets are gorgeous. You just got to agree, it's just a beautiful machine.
They are. They're absolutely fabulous. And to get them on the highway, they absolutely love the highway, yes. This particular car here probably is under-geared for the highway because, once again, this is a thing with K-codes. The diff ratio is a little bit low. I mean, I could take you for a drive down the road there, take off in top gear. So that's what type of ratio it's got in the back.
They were all geared for stoplight to stoplight, weren't they?
Well, that's exactly right, yeah. So, but in the old days, on the roads we used to have, they were fabulous.
Through the twisty stuff.
Yeah, freeway running, not so crash hot.
Bob, great to catch up with you. It's just good to see a guy that's got to that part of his life where cars of once upon a time used to be a dream and now a reality. That's what Classic Restos TV show is all about. It's just so good. Good on you, Bob.
Yeah, thanks very much, Fletch.
You're welcome. Pleasure. Moving through, getting towards the end of the day. Great little show here at Mittagong, the primary school, their country fair. We've got a bloke like this. John, how are you, buddy?
I'm very well, thank you, Fletch.
That's the way. You know, I've got to say, 1965 MG, I never knew that they did a four-door MG of this type.
Yeah, it's a 8016. They did one of everything. It's part of the badge engineering that BMC did. So you get everything from an Austin, Morris, Van and Pla, and an MG all together. And a Riley and a Wolseley as well, if you want one.
You know, and credit where credit is due, I love chrome. I love the chrome work. That extra attention to detail, the budgeting back in the day allowed for that. What a gorgeous grille. It really makes this little car, doesn't it?
It's probably the pick of the 8016s in the fact that the grille stands out and says MG. You know, look at the Riley, it's very similar, but this is brilliant. And what I like about this car is the colour. I think the colour of this car says 1965. It does. It's pastel colours, suits the period.
I mean, two-tone colours were big and separated by a stainless steel trim. Back in the days where, you know, we had a little bit of class, a little bit of sophistication. One thing that really takes my eye, apart from the chrome, have a go at the size of the back seat. This would have to go down as probably the roomiest rear, especially in a small car. I mean, that back seat, that's as big as my Fairlane.
Yep, and you can put a box of beer under the seat and still have room to sit in there.
A box of beer under the seat, John?
One on each side. That's 2 boxes of beer.
So when the kind constable gives you the DUI, you can tell him that don't worry, sir, there's 2 boxes under the seat.
One's yours, one's mine. No, not a problem.
Now, really, the legroom on this car, we've got a shot up there on the screen now. It is massive. And as you say, there's room under the seats as well to stretch out, put your feet under there. It's very deceiving. I mean, when you look at the car as a side profile with relatively no back on the car whatsoever, then you open up the back doors and find all this room. Like I said, I just haven't seen that before.
Pininfarina did the styling. And you can see by the shape of the taillights, everything that Farina did had fins, whether they be big or small. But the one key factor for Farina is the roof line. It's got the return on the back of the roof. And if you look at any Farina styling, Peugeot, any of the Austins or Morrises, always had that little duck back in the roof. And kind of traditional.
Like his design signature.
It was, exactly.
Okay, let's look under the hood now. John, tell us what's going on under there.
There's the standard's 1100cc, just a traditional, but had twin carbs. So basically it was exactly the same engine that was in the MG Midget at the time, same camshaft, same compression ratio, so it was basically an MG's MG. And
good little car to drive?
It's very, very good. Runs out of steam on the freeway because 4,000 RPM is about 100. And with modern cars, we get used to 1,800, 2,000, but it still holds its own on the freeway.
It's amazing the way the modern cars are geared these days. I mean, if you're on the freeway doing 4,000 rev, gee, you're almost off the clock.
That's right.
Credit to you, too, in the preservation of this car as well, because there's not many of these around, and I know that for a fact because, well, I've been to a few car shows in my time. It's the first one I've seen.
Yes, that's right. They don't get around very often. There are quite a few around. but most of them live in sheds.
Yeah, right.
I like to get out and use the car because that's what they were made for.
Yeah,
you know. So.
Now, you're a good guy, John, and yeah, what can I say, mate? Congratulations, it's a credit to you, it's a beautiful little car, and thanks for coming today, eh?
But it's not as good as your show. That's brilliant.
I hope you've really enjoyed today's episode of Classic Restos here at the Mittagong Primary School Country Fair. Now, classicrestos.com.au, that's the website that you need for the DVD boxed sets of the show and Classic Restos merchandise as well. While you're there, check out the major sponsors. They're waiting to help you too. classicrestos.com.au. As I say at the end of every show, no matter where you're watching Classic Restos from, until next week, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching.
Go Fletch! Go Classic Restos! Woo!
Don't forget to like Classic Restos on Facebook. Facebook.com/Classic Restos TV. And episodes can be seen at Shannons.com.au. That's not fair. Classic Restos, proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts, Main Lube Lubricants, and your local Repco store.